On September 15, 2021, Michael Washington was found dead at his desk at 2:47 p.m. by his personal assistant, Keisha Johnson. She had arrived for their scheduled 3 p.m. meeting to review quarterly earnings. The entrepreneur appeared to have died peacefully, slumped over his laptop while working on developing AI-powered security solutions for small businesses. There were no signs of struggle, no obvious trauma, and no indication of foul play. Michael's coffee mug sat half empty beside his keyboard, and his phone showed missed calls from investors eager to discuss the company's upcoming $800 million deal with a European cybersecurity firm. Judge Denise Washington was presiding over a securities fraud case when she received the devastating phone call from Detective Marcus Thompson of the Travis County Sheriff's Office. People in the courtroom later said her reaction seemed shocked and visibly shaken. Court reporter Angela Davis noted that Judge Washington's voice cracked when she announced the emergency brake, something no one had ever seen in her 12-year career. She immediately left the case and rushed home to find emergency responders already there. Paramedic James Wilson, who was one of the first to respond, later said that Judge Washington's behavior seemed normal for a spouse who had just lost their partner unexpectedly. Before that fateful September morning, Michael Washington was the CEO and founder of Secure Cloud Technologies, worth $2.3 billion after taking his company public 18 months earlier. His revolutionary cybersecurity platform had transformed how companies protected their digital assets, making him one of the most successful Black entrepreneurs in America. This was during a time when tech companies were booming, much like how we saw with companies like Zoom and Peloton during the pandemic. His wife, Judge Denise Washington, was 52 years old and equally accomplished. She was a federal judge known for her tough sentences on white-collar criminals and her work on judicial reform. She was often featured in legal journals and had been mentioned as a potential Supreme Court nominee, especially as the Biden administration was actively seeking diverse candidates for federal positions. To neighbors and colleagues, the Washingtons had it all. They lived in a stunning $8 million estate in the exclusive Westlake Hills area of Austin, Texas. They had successful careers that had broken barriers and what seemed to be a loving marriage of 12 years. Michael was celebrated not just for his business skills, but for his charity work, having donated over $100 million to various causes. Denise was respected for her sharp mind, strong moral compass, and work on criminal justice reform. But behind their perfect life, a darker story was unfolding. The first assessment suggested a heart attack or stroke. Michael had been working 18-hour days leading up to Secure Cloud's latest deal, and the stress seemed to have finally taken its toll. The Travis County Medical Examiner's Office initially said the death was from natural causes while they waited for autopsy results. Denise played the role of grieving widow perfectly. She made all the arrangements with the precision of someone used to handling complex legal matters. She spoke movingly at Michael's memorial service at the historic Ebenezer Baptist Church about their shared dreams of creating wealth and breaking barriers for future generations. Over 2,000 people attended, including tech industry leaders, federal judges, and civil rights activists who had been touched by Michael's charity work. 3 weeks after Michael's death, Denise filed a claim on a life insurance policy that raised the first red flag. While Michael's estate was worth billions, this particular policy was modest, exactly $500,000 through Lone Star Life and Casualty. What made the claim suspicious was not the amount, but the timing. Insurance investigator Tanya Brooks discovered that Denise had bought the policy just 8 months earlier, significantly increasing Michael's life insurance through her federal judicial benefits program. This was puzzling because Michael already had substantial life insurance through his company, the couple had no children, and their combined wealth meant they had no apparent need for additional coverage. Brooks, a former police detective with 15 years of experience in insurance fraud, found it odd that someone worth billions would need additional life insurance, especially such a specific amount. When Lone Star requested Michael's medical records as part of their standard investigation, they discovered something troubling. Michael had been in perfect health with no family history of heart disease, no history of drug use, and had passed a comprehensive executive physical just 6 months before his death. Dr. Robert Harris, Michael's longtime physician, confirmed that his patient had the heart health of someone 20 years younger. Michael was an avid runner who completed 2 marathons annually and maintained a strict diet. The doctor's records showed normal blood pressure, excellent cholesterol levels, and no signs of heart problems. This discovery made Lone Star request a more thorough autopsy, despite the initial ruling of natural causes. Dr. Patricia Williams, the chief medical examiner for Travis County, was initially reluctant to perform an expanded autopsy. The first examination had shown no obvious signs of foul play, and Michael's death had already been classified as natural. However, the insurance company's concerns, combined with Dr. Harris's insistence that his patient had been in excellent health, convinced her to do additional tests. What Dr. Williams discovered changed everything. Hidden in Michael's system were traces of succinylcholine, a powerful drug used in surgeries. In the right hands, it's a life-saving medication that allows doctors to perform operations. In the wrong hands, it's the perfect murder weapon. Succinylcholine works by blocking nerve signals to muscles, causing complete paralysis while leaving the victim conscious and aware. Death occurs within minutes as the breathing muscles stop working. Most sinister of all, the drug breaks down quickly in the body, making it nearly impossible to detect unless specifically tested for within days of death. It's the kind of drug that would look exactly like a heart attack, Dr. Williams explained to investigators. The victim would experience chest pain, difficulty breathing, and cardiac arrest, but they would be completely unable to move or call for help. The discovery immediately shifted the investigation from natural causes to murder. Detective Marcus Thompson was assigned as the lead investigator, with support from Detective Carmen, a specialist in white-collar crime. Their first question was simple but telling. How would someone without medical training get and use such a sophisticated drug?
If you're enjoying this story, kindly do us a favor and subscribe to our channel. It is free and won't cost anything, but it means the world to us. We're just a small channel trying to grow. Thank you, and back to the video.
Thompson's investigation began with a thorough examination of Denise's background and recent activities. What they discovered painted a picture of a woman under enormous pressure, struggling with demons that contradicted her public image of success and integrity. The first major breakthrough came when investigators discovered that Denise had been having an affair with Dr. Jerome Mitchell, an anesthesiologist at Austin General Hospital, for over 2 years. Security footage from the hospital showed Denise visiting Mitchell frequently, often during lunch breaks from court sessions. The visits were initially dismissed as social calls. Dr. Mitchell was a respected member of the medical community and had even testified as an expert witness in several cases that had come before Judge Washington's court. However, deeper investigation revealed a more troubling pattern. Hospital records showed that vials of succinylcholine had gone missing from Dr. Mitchell's medical kit on 3 separate occasions, disappearances that coincidentally aligned with Denise's visits to the hospital. The missing drugs had been attributed to inventory errors and clerical mistakes, but the pattern was too convenient to ignore. Phone records revealed hundreds of encrypted messages between Denise and Dr. Mitchell in the weeks leading up to Michael's death. While the messages themselves were heavily coded and sent through a secure messaging app typically used by lawyers, analysis revealed discussions about the solution, permanent resolution of the problem, and ensuring the future. One particularly damning exchange, recovered from Dr. Mitchell's phone just 2 weeks before Michael's death, read, "The pressure is getting worse. I can't keep this up much longer." Denise had responded, "Soon. Everything will be different soon. Trust the plan we discussed." The investigation also uncovered Denise's mounting financial troubles, a shocking revelation given her and Michael's apparent wealth. Despite their combined assets worth hundreds of millions, Denise had been living a secret double life that had led to devastating consequences. Financial records revealed that Denise had been stealing money from court-administered funds over 3 years, using her position to divert settlement money and court fees into personal accounts. The scheme was sophisticated, taking advantage of her deep knowledge of legal procedures and her access to court financial systems. This type of judicial corruption was becoming more common, as seen in recent cases across the country where judges had been caught stealing from court funds. More damaging was the discovery of Denise's gambling addiction. She had been going to underground poker games and exclusive casinos, often losing hundreds of thousands of dollars in single nights. The gambling had started as occasional entertainment, but had spiraled into a compulsion that consumed her thoughts and drained her resources. This was during a time when online gambling was exploding in popularity, making it easier than ever for people to develop serious gambling problems. Detective Carmen traced Denise's gambling activities through credit card records, bank transfers, and surveillance footage from various venues. The most shocking discovery was that Denise owed nearly $2.8 million to dangerous individuals connected to organized crime, people who had begun making threats against both her and Michael. Surveillance footage from the Belmont Casino, obtained through a federal subpoena, showed Denise in heated arguments with known associates of criminal organizations. Audio enhancement revealed discussions about payment plans and consequences for family members if debts weren't settled soon. By the summer of 2021, Denise Washington was facing a perfect storm of crises that threatened to destroy everything she had worked to build. Her gambling debts were mounting, her stealing scheme was becoming harder to conceal, and an internal audit of court finances was scheduled for October, just weeks after Michael's death. Court records showed that Denise had been exhibiting unusual behavior in the months leading up to Michael's murder. Colleagues noted that she seemed distracted, often asking for breaks during proceedings, and had become increasingly irritable with court staff. Her longtime bailiff, Officer Robert Jackson, testified that Judge Washington had seemed like a different person in her final months on the bench. The pressure was also affecting her marriage. Text messages recovered from Michael's phone showed growing concern about his wife's behavior. In one exchange with his business partner, Michael wrote, "Denise has been acting strange lately. She's secretive about where she goes and seems anxious all the time. I'm worried about her." Michael had even suggested marriage counseling. Most telling of all was a voice message Michael left for his sister, Tasha Washington Brown, just 3 days before his death. "Something's not right with Denise. She's been asking weird questions about my life insurance and what would happen to my businesses if something happened to me. I'm starting to get concerned." Denise's biggest mistake was her own arrogance. As a federal judge with over 2 decades in the legal system, she believed she understood criminal investigations well enough to commit the perfect crime. She had studied countless murder cases, heard testimony from forensic experts, and observed investigative procedures from the bench. This knowledge, she believed, would make her untouchable. She had chosen succinylcholine because she knew it was difficult to detect and would look like natural causes. She had established an alibi by being in court at the time of death, with dozens of witnesses to confirm where she was. She had even planted evidence of Michael's supposed stress and overwork, leaving emails about business pressures on his computer and arranging for colleagues to comment on his heavy workload. But she hadn't counted on Dr. Mitchell's conscience or his fear. 3 months after Michael's death, as the investigation intensified, Dr. Mitchell contacted Detective Thompson through his attorney. Racked with guilt and facing his own investigation for the missing drugs, he agreed to cooperate with authorities in exchange for immunity from prosecution. The revelations he provided were stunning. Dr. Mitchell revealed that Denise had manipulated him into believing Michael was abusive and that they needed the drugs for Denise's protection. She had shown him fake photographs of bruises and staged evidence of domestic violence, convincing the doctor that she was a victim who needed help defending herself. She was incredibly convincing, Dr. Mitchell later testified. She knew exactly what to say, how to present evidence, and how to make me believe I was helping someone escape an abusive situation. As a medical professional, I felt obligated to help what I thought was a victim of domestic violence. Dr. Mitchell provided investigators with recordings of their conversations, made secretly after he began to suspect Denise's true motives. The recordings detailed Denise's plan to give the lethal injection through Michael's morning coffee routine, a daily ritual that Michael never changed. The most chilling revelation was the timeline. Denise had been planning Michael's murder for over a year, carefully researching untraceable poisons, studying similar cases that had come through her courtroom, and even attending medical conferences to better understand how such drugs could be given and detected. As the investigation deepened, Detective Thompson uncovered layer after layer of deception. Denise had created an elaborate network of lies to support her plan, involving multiple accomplices who believed they were helping her with legitimate problems. She had convinced her longtime friend and court clerk, Monica Jefferson, to help her access confidential court records under the pretense of preparing for a complex case. These records were actually used to study how other murder investigations had proceeded and what evidence had led to convictions. Denise had also manipulated her relationship with her personal trainer, Kevin Brown, asking him about supplements and vitamins that could hide the taste of bitter substances. Brown later testified that he thought he was helping Judge Washington surprise her husband with a health drink designed to boost his energy levels. Most disturbing of all was Denise's psychological manipulation of Dr. Mitchell. Phone records revealed that she had been studying his personal life, learning about his divorce, his financial struggles, and his desire to help domestic violence victims. She crafted her deception specifically to exploit his compassionate nature and professional ethics. By January 2022, the investigation had expanded to include federal agents due to the involvement of a federal judge and the complex financial crimes. FBI Special Agent Denzel Clark was assigned to lead the federal aspects of the case, while Detective Thompson continued to handle the state murder charges. The Joint Task Force discovered that Denise's crimes went far beyond murder and embezzlement. She had been using her position to influence cases in favor of certain attorneys in exchange for cash payments, a corruption scheme that had been ongoing for years. Court records showed suspicious patterns in her rulings that consistently favored lawyers who had made large cash payments to accounts controlled by Denise. Even more shocking was the discovery that Michael had begun to suspect his wife's criminal activities. His personal computer contained research into court corruption, embezzlement detection, and divorce procedures. Files showed that Michael had been secretly gathering evidence of Denise's crimes, possibly planning to confront her or seek legal advice. This discovery provided an additional motive for murder. Denise may have killed Michael not just for the insurance money, but to prevent him from exposing her criminal enterprise. The timing of his death, just weeks before the court audit, and his planned meeting with a divorce attorney seemed too convenient to be coincidental. On March 8, 2022, Judge Denise Washington was arrested at her courthouse office during a break in a federal racketeering trial. The irony was not lost on observers. A judge who had built her career on prosecuting criminals had become one herself. The arrest was coordinated between federal agents and local police, with Detective Thompson personally placing Denise in handcuffs while Agent Clark read the charges. The scene was captured by courthouse security cameras and would later become one of the most viewed pieces of evidence in the trial. Denise's reaction to the arrest was telling. Rather than expressing shock or confusion, she immediately said she wanted to remain silent and demanded to speak with her attorney. Her composure in the face of serious charges struck many observers as unusual for someone who claimed to be innocent. Dr. Mitchell was arrested at the same time at the hospital, charged with conspiracy, drug theft, and accessory to murder. His arrest sparked a broader investigation into hospital security procedures and drug accountability measures that would lead to significant reforms in medical facilities across Texas. The trial began in January 2023 and immediately became a media sensation. The case had everything: a respected judge fallen from grace, a tech billionaire's mysterious death, forbidden love affairs, gambling addiction, and corruption at the highest levels of government. This was during a time when public trust in institutions was already at an all-time low, making the case even more shocking to the American public. Judge Patricia Lewis was assigned to hear the case, a no-nonsense judge known for her handling of complex criminal cases. The prosecution, led by District Attorney Patricia Wilson and Federal Prosecutor David Johnson, presented overwhelming evidence over 3 weeks of testimony. They called 47 witnesses, introduced over 200 pieces of evidence, and painted a picture of a woman whose desperation and greed had driven her to the ultimate betrayal. The case against Denise included the missing succinylcholine traced to Dr. Mitchell's medical supplies, encrypted messages discussing the murder plot, financial records showing her gambling debts and embezzlement, testimony from Dr. Mitchell detailing the murder plan, and forensic evidence linking Denise to the crime scene. The most powerful moment came when Keisha Johnson, Michael's assistant, testified about his final morning. She described how Michael had seemed unusually tired after his morning coffee, the same coffee that forensic analysis would later prove contained traces of succinylcholine. Her emotional testimony about finding her beloved boss dead at his desk brought tears to the eyes of several jurors. Denise's defense team, led by prominent criminal attorney Michael Thompson, faced an almost impossible task. The evidence against their client was overwhelming, and her actions had left little room for reasonable doubt. Their strategy centered on attacking the credibility of Dr. Mitchell and arguing that Denise was being framed by her lover. They painted Mitchell as a manipulative drug addict who had acted alone out of jealousy and greed, using his medical knowledge to murder Michael and frame Denise. However, the defense's case crumbled under cross-examination. When confronted with the encrypted messages, Dr. Mitchell's recordings, and the timeline of events, the theory of a frame-up became increasingly implausible. Most damaging to the defense was Denise's decision not to testify in her own defense. While legally she had no obligation to take the stand, her silence struck many observers as the behavior of someone with something to hide. In their closing arguments, the prosecutors painted a picture of calculated evil that shocked even seasoned court observers. District Attorney Wilson's final statement to the jury was particularly powerful. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, we have shown you a woman who swore an oath to uphold justice, but chose to pervert it for personal gain. Judge Washington didn't just betray her husband, she betrayed every principle she claimed to hold dear. She used her position of trust, her legal knowledge, and her understanding of the system to commit what she believed would be the perfect murder." Michael Washington was a man who had achieved the American dream through hard work and innovation. He created jobs, donated millions to charity, and inspired countless young people to pursue careers in technology. His life was cut short not by illness or accident, but by the calculated actions of someone who was supposed to love and protect him. The evidence is clear. Judge Washington murdered her husband for money. She manipulated a doctor into helping her obtain the poison. She planned the murder for over a year, and when it was done, she stood at his funeral and spoke about their shared dreams while knowing she had destroyed them all. After 8 days of testimony and evidence presentation, the case went to the jury on March 10, 2023. The 12 jurors deliberated for just 4 hours before reaching their verdict. When they returned to the courtroom, the tension was thick. Michael's family, including his sister Tasha and his elderly parents, sat in the front row, holding hands and praying for justice. Denise sat without emotion at the defense table, showing no feeling as the foreman stood to deliver the verdict. On the charge of murder in the first degree, we find the defendant guilty. The courtroom erupted. Michael's family wept with relief while spectators who had followed the case gasped audibly. Denise showed no reaction, staring straight ahead as the remaining guilty verdicts were read for conspiracy, insurance fraud, embezzlement, and corruption of office. Judge Lewis immediately sent Denise to jail pending sentencing, denying bail due to the severity of the charges and the defendant's access to resources that could help her flee. Outside the courthouse, Michael's sister Tasha made a brief but emotional statement. "Today, justice was served for my brother. Michael was a good man who deserved so much better than what happened to him. No amount of money could ever justify what that woman did. We can finally begin to heal." On April 15, 2023, Judge Denise Washington stood before her former colleague, Judge Patricia Lewis, for sentencing. The scene was surreal. A federal judge about to be sentenced by a peer in the same type of courtroom where she had once dispensed justice. Before sentencing, Judge Lewis allowed victim impact statements from Michael's family and friends. His sister Tasha spoke movingly about the brother she had lost. Michael wasn't just successful, he was kind. He remembered everyone's birthday, he mentored young entrepreneurs, and he never forgot where he came from. "Denise didn't just kill my brother. She robbed the world of all the good he still had left to do." Michael's business partner, Jerome Williams, testified about the impact on their company and employees. Michael built this company to create opportunities for people who look like him in an industry where we're still underrepresented. His murder didn't just destroy a family, it damaged an entire community of people who looked up to him as a role model. When given the opportunity to speak before sentencing, Denise finally broke her silence. Her statement was brief and showed little remorse. "I maintain my innocence and plan to appeal this conviction. I have dedicated my life to public service and refuse to accept responsibility for crimes I did not commit." Judge Lewis's response was swift and severe. You have not just betrayed your husband, your profession, and your community. You have betrayed the very concept of justice itself. The bench you once occupied with honor has been forever stained by your actions. Your crimes represent the worst kind of betrayal, the abuse of power by someone entrusted with upholding the law. Denise Washington was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for the murder charge, plus additional sentences totaling 45 years for the fraud, embezzlement, and corruption charges. Dr. Mitchell, who had cooperated fully with investigators, received 25 years for conspiracy and drug theft. The $500,000 insurance policy was never paid out. Instead, those funds, along with Denise's seized assets totaling over $3 million, were used to create a victim compensation fund for families affected by judicial corruption. Denise Washington is currently serving her sentence at the Christina Melton Crane Unit in Gatesville, Texas. She has appealed her conviction twice, both times unsuccessfully. Prison records show that she spends most of her time in the law library, still clinging to the belief that her legal knowledge will somehow secure her freedom. Dr. Jerome Mitchell was released in early 2024 after serving his sentence and now works as a substance abuse counselor, dedicating his life to helping others who've lost their way. He has spoken publicly about the importance of recognizing manipulation and the need for medical professionals to be vigilant about the security of controlled substances. Michael Washington's death remains a tragedy that robbed the world of a brilliant mind and generous spirit. His company, Secure Cloud Technologies, continues to thrive under new leadership, with the board of directors dedicating their continued success to honoring Michael's vision of creating opportunities in the technology sector. The case serves as a powerful reminder that justice, though sometimes delayed, will ultimately prevail. Denise Washington believed that her position, her intelligence, and her understanding of the legal system would protect her from the consequences of her actions. She discovered too late that no one, regardless of their status or power, is above the law. In the end, the woman who once dispensed justice from the bench learned that justice would ultimately find her, no matter how carefully she had planned her crimes or how perfect she believed her execution to be. The truth, as it always does, rose to the surface, and justice, blind but never absent, was finally served. If this incredible story of corruption, betrayal, and ultimate justice left you amazed at how even the most powerful can fall, make sure to hit that like button. Subscribe to our channel and ring that notification bell for more unbelievable true crime stories that prove truth really is stranger than fiction. What other cases involving corruption at the highest levels would you like us to investigate? Drop your suggestions in the comments below.